Hey, how's it going? Dylan here, and welcome to an update on my Ocean system for rendered cinematics tool for Unreal Engine 5, which is now on the marketplace, and I'm very, very thankful for all of you who have gone and purchased it. It's been quite popular, and I'm very humbled by all the support and everyone checking it out. But obviously, being at the first release, there were some issues, and also in terms of people trying to actually get it going and get a good result. There was quite a lot of questions that came my way, and I decided to do this video. So this will be an overview of the first update to the system, and also to answer some frequently asked questions that I've received so far. So let's get right into it. First off, I'm going to go through some little additions that I've added to the tool today. One main feature, really. I've cleaned up a few bugs where parameters weren't categorized properly, but also I have added an extra little group of waves. Well, not little waves, larger waves. So essentially, this allows you to keep having the micro detail like this that we all like, but also to have some large scale waves on top of them. So you get like kind of high detail, but you still get kind of nice looking swell as well. So ocean swell. So it just makes the system a little bit more versatile and easy to get the look you're after. So I'll demo that right now. As you can see, this is the ocean example project, the map that comes with the tool, and essentially this is what you usually get straight away. If you go ahead and hit play in your editor. And essentially what I'll do here is if I open up the ocean instance material, and now under Gerstner category, you'll see that you have a bunch more options under large scale. So you've got similar options that you have for the main wave generation, high frequency detail. But the large scale generation is, I believe, it's an extra 24 Gerstner waves, and they are by default a lot larger. And I'll show you basically what I built in here. There's like essentially a multiplier on here, large scale waves. And so this is with no large scale waves. And if we go to 1, as you can see, now we've got a really nice swell going, but we're not losing the smaller detail. So before it was quite hard to get larger waves and also have smaller detail going. So this kind of really helps along with that. So as you can see, you get a really nice swell. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this one looks kind of straight off the bat. It looks quite nice, and obviously you can configure the different settings for the large scale waves in the instance. So yeah, I'm happy to release this one and let you guys go wild with it. So another little tweak that I've done to the tool is the blueprint, BP Ocean. I had a few requests to make it sequenceable. So essentially, this is only a little bit of that solved. Essentially, I've made all of these the blueprint side variables keyframeable in sequencer. In terms of the material attributes, because they're based on Gerstner waves, a lot of them, any of them that have to do with the way time interacts or the way something interacts over time, for instance, the wavelength, keyframing those values in sequencer and animating them tends to look really strange. Like stuff will speed up or slow down based on if you're making the wavelength longer and smaller when that value is changing. So I'm going to be investigating that in the future and basically going to try and make as many variables as I can keyframeable without without causing issues to the visual makeup of what you see. So yeah, that one is now working. So you see, if I head into, if I add a new sequence here, let's do test sequence, and if I bring this window over, if we drag BP Ocean in, we can now kind of keyframe any of these kind of values here. So nice and handy. Even though you can't keyframe a lot of the material attributes, A lot of these settings, like quality settings, are very handy to be able to be keyframeable between shots in Sequencer, so you don't have to keep changing it in the actual base blueprint. If you had a bunch of different shots and you wanted to kind of make the most out of each individual camera view and change quality settings, you can. Okay, so next let's head over to some frequently asked questions and solutions, and showing examples of how you would fix certain issues or things when they happen. So, number one, I've been asked a few times how to stop the planes breaking away from each other. Now, so you can see here that we're getting kind of planes breaking up because there's a high quality or higher quality plane next to a lower quality plane, and because we are in the vicinity, it's fairly close to the camera, we can see that happening. So one of the ways you can get rid of that is by number one, upping the LOD scale. So for instance, if we put this one back to 4 where it was, and we hit play, now that is essentially completely gone, that scene we had here. So you can definitely up that. The LOD scale basically just pushes out the radius and the blend of the distances that the planes change into lower and lower qualities. So it's much more of a gradual fade. This obviously does affect performance, but generally you can get a pretty good result without seeing any breaks. In fact, at work today, I was doing something for a client, and we did use my water system for it, and I was able to push it way out really far without anything detrimental for rendering it out overnight, which is rendering right now in my work machine. But so essentially, that's one of the ways you can fix that kind of issue. Other ways, obviously, you can also change not just the LOD scale. The LOD scale is just a multiplier on all those values. You can change the individual LOD distance, so the base distance at which things change, or the LOD bias. So the bias affects kind of like the curve of it. So if I were to put this right down to 0.5, you can see now I'm getting really low quality. On 1, it's a little bit better quality. 2, even nicer quality. So essentially, you can fiddle with these values and get kind of something that works. I kind of like this value at the moment for these settings. Now, another way to fix one of these issues, so if I hit this way back down to 1 here, is to, instead of dealing with LOD values, you could instead deal with grid values. So, for instance, if we chuck the density up here, you can see this is a very slow, but the seam is also gone here. So it's just a trade-off of different kind of ways of doing things. And in terms of this method, if your camera is really close to the surface, increasing the density can increase the amount of detail visible when your camera is very close to the actual water surface. It's a lot slower, as you can see, but for macro shots and close-ups, or really lots of water in the foreground, this works really well. Or, you can combine both methods and kind of do an in-between step, which I've done many times. It's really about what gives the best kind of trade-off and visual look for you. So I encourage you to play around with these settings. Okay, so lastly, the other thing to look at that people have been asking about is extent. So as you can see, when I hit play, there is a fade off towards the horizon where the displacement goes lower, as I said before. We can fix this by changing the extent. So the extent is basically the area that the main kind of detail planes cover. So this is only on 2 by default. If we bump it up to 5, you can see straight away that also scales the blend radius of the displacement. So if we hit play now, you can see now the displacement goes much further out, and you're getting a much nicer result. And you can go way further than this. This is on an extent of 5, for example. If we really want, we can go for 30. And yeah, you're getting kind of a really nice result. And again, your performance isn't great, but this is designed for rendering out cinematics. So, you know, that's the intended purpose. It's not intended for real-time performance, but you still get a nice, decent preview like this going, and it seems to be working fairly well. I've also made some tweaks to the far normal. So for this little fix, this release, I've tried to fix where the far plane was popping quite a bit. So I've smoothed out the normals on that far material, basically the far instance material, to a full 1. So that means that, you know, it tries to smooth it out. There's still a little bit of jittering, but that's from the temporal AA jitter, because the features are so small, the subpixel. So obviously when you render out at higher resolution and high samples, then that should be negated mostly. It's hard to get rid of it completely. I'm going to look at it in the future in terms of other solutions to try and mix it up and make a more advanced far material for the extension, because obviously it looks quite weird, especially when you have a larger waves close in. Okay, so another question that I was asked in terms of how to get kind of reflective water. Now, the water itself is fully reflective. It works with Lumen for the most part. And what I can show you is that, obviously because the water is quite rough right now, it kind of diffuses the reflection automatically, because there's lots of different angles and normal values. So we don't get perfect kind of reflection, obviously. If I go ahead and we take down our amplitudes to say 1, and we'll large waves, for example. So as you can see, when we've brought down the large scale waves and brought down our normal amplitude a bit, you can see we can get quite a reflective surface going. You can tweak it even more. There's lots of different things. The main things you want to do would be turn off amplitude variation. See, there we go, straight away. We're getting a really calm ocean, and you're kind of seeing the reflection a bit more. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed you will enjoy the new features that I've added for this little fix patch release, and some of the questions I've answered that I keep receiving. So basically, I'll be updating this tonight when this video goes live. I'll be pushing the update to the files on the marketplace, and I'll also be including in the materials folder here another example version of this instance, which is the exact settings that I used for the sample project with the ultra high detail. So it's a good example of the settings to use when you really want to like push that granular detail to the max. Performance be gone, obviously, but it might give you a nice reference for like different setups and things like that. And I'm hoping in the future to kind of get some presets going and the like. So that should be fun. Alrighty, well, again, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and hit me up on Twitter or in the comments if you have any more questions. I'd love to answer them and figure out any issues if possible. Alright, till next time, take care.